Alright, I can't remember who said it, and Twitter's search function is basically dead at this point, so I can't even find the original tweet, but I swear to you that at some point, someone said something along the lines of, every Transformers fan is assigned a random favorite character at birth that they will love until the day they die. My favorite character is Blurr, and I mean, come on, how could he not be? Look at this guy. The super speed, the design, the voice, it's all perfect. He's so consistently one of the best parts of every Transformers thing he appears in. Of course, the thing about being a fan of both the fiction and the plastic is that inevitably I was going to wind up with at least a few Blurr toys here and there. It started with the animated one as a kid, then they released the Studio Series one right as I was getting back into the franchise, so I had to get that one. And then I found out about the Takara Legends figure and knew I needed to get that one as well, and at some point I had to stop and ask myself, how many Blurr toys are there? Turns out the answer is 34, and that number was even lower when I first counted, in part because a couple of them hadn't released yet, and in part because, as we'll soon discuss, some of these figures are not exactly well documented online. On top of the relatively small number, though, it turned out that most of them were weirdly accessible. Like, there were a ton of eBay listings for them, and most of those were actually pretty cheap. Heck, even the rarest ones cost me less than $100, so all in all, it became pretty clear pretty quickly that I could actually collect all of them. Right now, I'm at 29 of the 34 figures, meaning I only have 5 left, and that's great! I'm really close to owning every Blurr figure ever released. Except, those 5 are weird. None of them are infamously rare, and they're certainly not very sought after, and yet finding any real information about them, let alone any people actually selling them, is borderline impossible. I've been looking for these things for so long that the amount of time I've spent totals up in days, possibly weeks. But why? Why these 5? Well, today we're going to talk about what those things are, why they're so hard to track down, and maybe, just maybe, how you might be able to help. Let's start off with a simple one. Back in 2007, the live-action Transformers movie was released, and Hasbro saw this as the perfect opportunity to release a ton of new merch beyond just the obligatory toy line. So they released a trading card game where you could punch out pieces from the cards and assemble them into either the robot mode or the vehicle mode, and they called this the Transformers 3D Battle Card Game. Blurr was not included in the Transformers 3D Battle Card Game, which, yeah, makes sense. It was based on the 2007 film, with most of the characters coming from the movie, the Tiny Media, or the movie toy line. However, later that year, Hasbro released their first expansion pack, titled Energon Wars, which included characters from a ton of different continuities, and sure enough, there's Blurr sporting a design loosely based on his 2 Unicron trilogy looks. Here's the thing about this game, though. It's kind of obvious that it didn't do super well. I wasn't really paying much attention at the time, I was 5, but there's a good bit of evidence to support the idea. For starters, there's just not a ton of documentation online. The wiki is pretty sparse, there's not much discussion on the forums, most of the videos about it don't get much traction, and so on and so forth. There's also the fact that Energon Wars was the first and also last expansion pack for the game, but most importantly for our purposes, there's the simple fact that there just aren't a ton of people selling anything from this game. Like, as of filming this, there's only about 50 listings on eBay, only 3 of which are open, and none of them include Blurr. Which means if I want him, I have to buy sealed packs and just hope I get lucky. The problem is, the cheapest listing is $6, and Blurr is listed as uncommon on the wiki, meaning it's gonna take more than 1 pack to actually find him. I have to literally gamble away what's likely upwards of $100 just to get the 1 character I want. The worst part, though, is that this is still technically the easiest of the 5 to actually find. Like, at least there are listings for sealed packs, and I mean, statistically speaking, surely one of them is bound to have Blurr. Sure, it's insane that finding a random collectible of the guy requires gambling, but at least the option is still there. The same can't be said for any of the other figures. Case in point, the Transformers Rescue Bots Flip Racers Griffin Rock Off-Road Extreme Team 3-pack. As the title suggests, it's a 3-pack. Of Flip Racers. You know, from the show Rescue Bots. And one of the included figures is an exclusive mold of everyone's favorite Speedy Boy. Here's the kicker, though. Apparently this pack was actually cancelled. Like, according to the TFW forums, the thing just flat out never released. It apparently got so far as to have a listing on Walmart Canada's website, but then must have been axed last minute. And so, for the longest time, I put it in the same category as Vortex Blurr. A figure I'd never see and that obviously didn't count towards a complete collection. That is, until I was trying to find promo images of it for a tweet when all of a sudden, oh my god, that's an in-hand image. Yeah, turns out the 3-pack really was cancelled. Everywhere except for Panama and the Philippines! So somehow, this one guy managed to track down an international eBay listing from some toy store in Panama that was closing and trying to offload a bunch of extra stock online. So of course the next step was to reach out to the guy and go, "Hey, are you selling?" Unfortunately, given how hard this thing is to find, he wasn't exactly interested in letting it go, which is totally fair, but he did give me a couple of extra resources to try and find other listings on my own, which, like, hey, thanks man, that's super cool of you. Even with the extra help though, nothing's actually turned up. In the time I've spent searching, I haven't found a single listing for even just one of the figures included in the 3-pack. It really does seem to be in this weird nebulous space where it was cancelled in most places, but managed to slip out in a few locations, but no one from those locations is actually selling them. But wait, it still gets worse. Because yeah, I can't find anyone selling this thing, but at least there's a lot of good documentation on it. This thing's on the TFW forums, it has a little blurb on the wiki, we even have a proper structured review of it with good in-hand photos. The rest of the ones in this video don't even come close. And to understand what these last few really are, I have to talk about Signature Publishing. They're a magazine publishing group responsible for the creation of mostly licensed magazines aimed at younger kids. They've done stuff for Gabby's Dollhouse, Lego Friends, Barbie, and yes, Transformers. The thing about these magazines is that in order to make them more appealing to kids, they'll usually include some sort of pack-in trinket or toy as a bonus incentive. Usually these are just like stickers or disc launchers or erasers shaped like the characters, but occasionally they'll do proper, albeit really cheap, action figures. And yeah, they made one of these based on Cyberverse Blurr. The funny thing is that initially I had no idea this thing existed. It's not on the wiki, it's not on the forums, I'd never seen any photos or videos of it. The thing basically didn't exist. I didn't find out about it until one day I just googled Cyberverse Blurr, only to find a single T-Formers article announcing its inclusion in issue 55 of the magazine. So I dug deeper, trying to find any more information I could. The article has a link to a website you could buy the magazine from, but it was long dead by the time I found it. And if you try googling Cyberverse Magazine Blurr, you'll only find the T-Formers article, a few tweets linking to the T-Formers article, and a whole lot of posts by me. At this point, I make up like half the relevant search results for this thing because of how much I've tried looking for it. The only other relevant result is a single video review from some guy in Lithuania. This one video is the only proof I have that this thing was ever even released. If it wasn't for this video, I'd probably have assumed it never even made it off the assembly line. But this video gave me what I was looking for, so I kept digging. Google has this cool thing called Google Lens, which lets you find different images of the same object in a picture. And yeah, wouldn't you know it, putting this image in actually pulls up a few results, all from different online Russian retailers. The problem being, of course, that all of them are out of stock. Not a single website I found still has it, and I'm honestly not sure that any of them ever had it. So hey, more proof that it was released at some point, but I'm still no closer to finding one for myself. But then it hit me. The link in the T-Formers article is a British magazine retailer, which means that at some point this thing released in the UK. So even if I can't find any online retailers selling it, maybe I can find a listing or two on British eBay. So I went to ebay.co.uk, I searched up Transformers Blurr, I scrolled through all 5 pages of results, and I didn't find a single listing for the magazine figure I was looking for. Instead, I found a listing for a different magazine Blurr, this time based on his Robots in Disguise incarnation. So yeah, it turns out they actually made 2 of these things, one based on Cyberverse and another based on RID. And this one has even less documentation. At least we had the T-Formers article for the Cyberverse one, but we don't even have that for the RID figure. Instead, the only thing that shows up when you Google Robots in Disguise magazine Blurr is a single video review from the same guy that has the Cyberverse figure. So I tried messaging this guy. Turns out he doesn't have any active social media accounts, so I flat out just left a comment asking him if he'd be willing to sell them. And amazingly, he did reply, but only to tell me that he was a collector too and wasn't interested in parting with them, which is totally fair, but doesn't make my job any easier. And of course, it couldn't be as simple as just ordering the one random listing off eBay. No, of course not. Not only does the seller not ship to me, but even if they did, the listing is incomplete. The video review shows that it comes with these fins for the shoulders and back, plus this blaster accessory, none of which is in the listing. And as if that wasn't enough, Google Lens does even less for this one. It's pretty much just a single Facebook post from 2019. I can't find anyone selling a complete listing of this thing. At this point, I was losing my mind, but I had to keep going. I had to find these 2, but then I realized maybe I'm doing this all wrong. Google Lens could only get me so far. What if the listings for this magazine don't actually have the photos of the toys? I realized that my best bet was actually to track down the ISSN numbers for the issues these came in, then search for those and hope for the best. All I needed was a list, something that had either the ISSN numbers themselves, or at least high enough resolution images of the covers for me to copy and paste the barcodes. And what do you know, I found one, a complete list of every Transformers magazine released by Signature Publishing. So I checked the barcode number for the RID magazine, no luck. So I checked the number for the Cyberverse magazine, a few results, but they were all retailers that Google Lens had already found. But then it occurred to me, the T-Formers article had mentioned 2 different issue numbers, 55 and 56. I'd assumed this was a mistake, but hey, it wouldn't hurt to check that one too, so I went back to the list, scrolled down to find the right issue, and So, to clarify, this random magazine company, with only about 100 issues to its name, based on a franchise with thousands of characters, has made not 1, not 2, but 3 Blurr figures, all within the span of a few years, and somehow not a single one of them is being sold anywhere online. Yeah, I tried finding the info about the Disc Blaster toy too, wound up finding 2 sold out listings on random Russian websites, that's it. And like, the fact that I keep finding these makes it worse, right? Because they made a solid handful of these magazines, and there are quite a few region-specific differences in gifts that make it harder to keep track of them, and Signature isn't even the only company to have made these sorts of magazines. Heck, while trying to find images of the Disc Blaster Blurr for this video, I wound up finding another one, and to be honest, I'm not even sure if I should count this one, because like, is this even a real figure in the traditional sense? It's just a punch-out piece of cardstock that you glue together into Blurr's alt mode. But I'm counting the 3D card game one, right? So is this truly so different that I can get away with ignoring it? But even if I don't choose to count this one, the damage is still done, because now I'm continuously paranoid that there are somehow even more of these things that I've missed. And I can't even track down the 5 I've actually been looking for, so how can I handle even more of these? I am actually losing my mind! It was at this point that I truly began to break. I was so close to having every Blurr figure, but these 5 random, unnoteworthy, bizarre card game characters and preschool toys and magazine pack-ins were somehow so hard to come by that not a single person on the entire internet is actively selling a complete listing of them. I figure it has to be because of the perceived value, right? Like, I'm aware that Blurr isn't exactly the most popular character, and it's not like most people would be super keen on buying this sort of low-end, random merch stuff. I assume most people probably figure it's not even worth selling, because yeah, supply is low, but the demand is even lower. And by lower, I pretty much just mean me. Like, is that it then? No one's selling them. It's pretty likely no one's ever gonna sell them. It really seems like I might be stuck at 29 out of 34, possibly 35, forever. Which is where you come in.
Do you live in Panama or the Philippines where you've seen this specific Flip Racers 3-pack? Maybe you're British or Lithuanian, and on a whim you bought one of these Transformers magazines but don't really know what to do with it anymore. Or maybe you're a really avid collector of trading card games, so you picked up tons of packs of the Transformers 3D battle card game, but let's face it, it's probably been a while since you've had a reason to pull those things out of storage. If any of those apply to you, if you have one or heck, even multiple of these things, I will buy your Blurs. That's right, I'll give you actual real-life money, and all you have to do in exchange is send me these random Blurr toys. What'll I pay? No idea. As I said, supply is low and demand is lower, so contact me and we'll absolutely work something out. What's that? Live on the other side of the world? I'll pay for international shipping and any additional fees too. Wow! But wait, there's more! If financial compensation and the satisfaction of helping someone complete their collection aren't good enough motivators, I can do you one better! Once I actually have all 34, possibly 35 Blurr figures, I fully intend to make one giant video reviewing each and every one of them. It'll serve as the weirdest and hopefully also most complete archive of Blurr memorabilia on the internet. And trust me, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that some of these toys desperately need more archiving. What are you waiting for? You can sell your Blurs to me on Twitter, Discord, Reddit, email, or heck, even the YouTube comments. That's right, even if literally none of the other options are available for you, you could simply leave a comment and I'll find a way to get in touch. So don't delay, sell your Blurs today!